A pathetic, raving man. He had to be driven away from the city, and he started living like a wild animal. A pathetic, deranged life. Nebuchadnezzar, the great God of Daniel, found a way to remind him to ignore Daniel's God.
That made me afraid. As I was lying in bed, the images and visions that passed through my mind terrified me. So I commanded that all the wise men of Babylon be brought before me to diviners came. I told them the dream, but they could not enter my presence, and I told him the dream.
Just like as it happened with his first dream of the statue, all the king's wise men were unable to interpret the meaning of the dream.
Under it, the wild animals found shelter, and the birds lived in its branches. From it, every creature was fed. In the visions I saw while lying in bed, I looked, and there before me was a holy one, a messenger coming down from heaven. He called in a loud voice, "Cut down the tree."
He made him one of his chief advisors. But Daniel kept confusing and challenging him.
Trim off its branch.
You will eat grass like the ox, and be drenched with the dew of heaven. 7 times will pass by for you, until you acknowledge that the Most High is sovereign. Your prosperity will continue.
This is what is decreed for you, King Nebuchadnezzar. Your royal authority has been taken from you. You will be driven away from people and will live with the wild animals. You will eat grass like the ox. 7 times will pass by for you until you acknowledge that the Most High is sovereign over all kingdoms on earth and gives them to anyone he wishes.
Had a problem with pride. He was self-obsessed. He was a narcissist. Now, he had every reason to be proud by the standards of the world. Look at all his conquests. Look at all his wealth. And he was sure that he was right about everything. He was the center of his universe and troubled his conscience. And when it became by his grandfather, Nebuchadnezzar. King Nebuchadnezzar, the great warrior king of Babylon, ruled his kingdom from 605 BC. He was powerful and he was invincible. He had no peers. He was the uncontested ruler of the world. Soon after he ascended the throne, Nebuchadnezzar went on the warpath. He set out that he found in Solomon's magnificent temple. And in addition, King Jehoiakim had abandoned any semblance of rebellion and surrendered to Nebuchadnezzar, leveled it to the ground, and took most of Jerusalem's remaining population as captives. Nebuchadnezzar's wealth and power were legendary, and he was known as a mighty conqueror. Astrology, divination, and sorcery had permeated their society. The king even had an elite group of wise men, wizards, magicians, and astrologers who advised him. Nebuchadnezzar had desperately sought advice from this group of wise men and seers when he'd been unable to remember his dream about a giant metal statue made of gold, silver, brass, and iron. When the wise men couldn't tell, much less interpret it, he angrily ordered them all to be executed. This execution order included the young Jewish nobleman Daniel and his friends. Daniel requests an audience with the king and tells him there is a God in God's guidance. He tells the king his dream and provides the interpretation that outlines the future of the world right through to the climax of history. King Nebuchadnezzar has another dream. This time it's about a tree, and he wants to know what it means. And asks them to interpret his dream. Well, the same situation happens again. The wise men can't explain the dream to the honest and reliable Hebrew Daniel. So he summons Daniel, and this is what Daniel says, just as the dream had predicted. For 7 years, and from that moment, Nebuchadnezzar went mad. Yes, he went stark, raving mad. He had to be driven away from the city, and he started living like a wild animal. He lived outdoors. His hair and nails grew long, and he ate grass like a cow. In a field like an animal, until he finally responded to the message from God. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all of whose works are truth, and his ways justice. And those who walk in pride, he is able to put down. Host a huge party. The Bible says, 1,000 people are invited to imbibe and celebrate with him. Of the great metal tablet clearly refers to King Nebuchadnezzar, and it says that his life appears to be of no value to him, that his orders are contradictory, that he doesn't listen to his advisors, he is neglecting his family, and he isn't performing his duties as king. But did you know that the king who originally built it went mad, stark raving mad? And how he kept his faith in the courts of Babylon. When we feel pressured or challenged to keep our faith,